In this lecture, we are going to configure ESLint with our project. We took the first step by installing ESLint. The next step is to configure ESLint directly. Keep in mind, ESLint is a separate package from Vite. This package requires a separate file for configuration. There are various ways to configure ESLint. We can add the settings directly to the package file. Alternatively, we can create a separate file. I prefer to create a separate file. This reduces clutter in the package file. It'll be easier to focus on ESLint by using a separate file. In our project's root directory, create a file called .eslint.rc. Inside this file, we'll input an empty object. This object should contain your settings. In this object, add another object called rules. In the resource section of this lecture, I provide a link to an official list of rules in ESLint. We have the option of picking and choosing which rules should apply to our codebase. We're not forced to use everything at once. ESLint does a great job of providing a description for each rule. If you need more info, you can click on a rule for code examples. For this demonstration, we are going to enable a rule for enforcing double quotes. Head back to the editor. In the rules object, add a property called quotes. This rule will enforce double quotes. The value for this property can be one of three values. We can set this rule to off to prevent the rule from being applied to our codebase. This is the default value for most rules. The second possible value is warn. ESLint can cause our project not to be built. The warn value will allow errors to go through, but will display the problem in the console. The last possible value is error. Unlike the warn value, the error value will not allow our project to be built. We must address the issues thrown by ESLint before building our project. Let's set this rule to error. The rule is ready. However, we're not finished yet. Below the rules object, add an object called environment. There are dozens of environments JavaScript can run in. ESLint doesn't assume which environment our code will run in. We can specify the environment through this object. In our case, our app runs in the browser. This property will be set to an object of environment we can turn on or off. Add the browser environment and set it to true. By enabling this environment, ESLint will not throw errors related to the browser. Next, add an object called parser options. In our script, we're using import statements. We must add explicit support for ES6 import statements by configuring the parser. In this object, add a property called ECMA version. This property's value should be the version of JavaScript. Set the version to 2022. Next, add the source type property. This property's value should be set to module to support import statements. Our configuration is ready. The next step is to start the server. If you have it running, you will need to start it. The configuration settings will not take effect until the server has been restarted. In the command line, run the npm run dev command. After a few moments, an error will get produced by Vite. The error stems from the code quality check by ESLint. As you can see, the error informs us of the file name and line numbers. In addition, a description is given for each error. In the main.js file, we have strings created with single quotes. Let's open this file. While it's great that ESLint caught these errors, we have one problem with the presentation of the errors. We must constantly switch to the console to check for errors. It would be great if the editor could point these errors out from the file. Fortunately, there's an extension for adding this feature. Switch over to the Extensions tab for Visual Studio Code. In the search box, search for an extension called ESLint. This extension is managed by Microsoft. Let's install this extension. You may need to restart your editor after installation. I'm going to quickly do so. After enabling this extension, red lines will appear under our code. We can hover our mouse over these errors to inspect them. As you can see, we can read errors directly from the file. We do not need to switch to the console to discover errors. That's great. The question becomes, how can we fix this error? There are two options. Firstly, we can manually fix these problems. But what if we had dozens of errors? It would be a nightmare to fix our issues. The second solution is to allow ESLint to fix our errors. Open the package file. Under the scripts object, add a new command called lint with the following value: ESLint main.js fix. The ESLint command is available from the ESLint package. This package will perform the linting process. If you want to use ESLint without tying it to a specific tool, you can use this command. After this command, we must specify a file to lint. Lastly, we're chaining a flag called fix. By default, ESLint will only output errors. However, we can force ESLint to fix any errors found by it. Fixing errors is not always guaranteed. If it fails to fix an error, you may need to manually fix the error. Let's try running the command. In the command line, run the npm run lint command. After a few moments, the file should have been updated. If you switch to the main.js file, the errors have gone away. ESLint swapped the single quotes with double quotes. Awesome! We've successfully fixed the problems with our file. Technically, single quotes do not produce errors, but we are enforcing a standard in our project. Overall, ESLint is a powerful tool for checking the quality of our code. We've only scratched the surface. As we dive into Vue, it'll help us catch basic problems, such as unused variables or import statements. Let's continue exploring tools in the next lecture.